Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 701 on Monday, the 27th of July, 2026. Hello, I'm not Alan, as the more perceptible ones amongst you will notice. I'm Andrew, and this week you'll hear about how if you haven't lost anything, you can't get any compensation. In new car news, you'll listen to me ask the question, why? And in points of interest, you can have a small cure for some FOMO for one event that happened in this last weekend. But first, we leap into follow-up. And finally, the High Court has ruled on the claims that were taken by sort of a class action claim that was taken against several manufacturers, which included Mercedes-Benz, Ford, Nissan, Renault, and Peugeot/Citroën. That they had in fact installed defeat devices and that they were conning customers and the public alike. There was 1.6 million claimants who jumped on the ambulance chasing bandwagon, and the court has rejected many of the allegations, but not all of them, but most of them. The judge, I'm going to quote from the Law Society Gazette here, where they are quoting from the judge, Lady Justice Cockerell, who said, for a defeat device to be found, there needs to be an intentional and or impermissible purpose of causing the brackets emission control system, close brackets, to operate differently when it senses it is being tested. It is therefore unnecessary to calibrate normal driving conditions or determine the meaning of reduces the effectiveness. She went on to add that on whichever analysis of the relevant provisions is pursued, the ambit of the claim is much reduced. Therefore, she was basically saying that where there was the presence of the PDDs, which is the prohibited defeat devices, where they were alleging that it just didn't succeed, in her opinion, under all that. You've got, obviously, the ambulance chasing lot who are going, right, this is ridiculous, Europe voted in favour of this, etc. But as some of the comments pointed out below in the bottom half of the internet of this article, in Europe, they were saying, the court cases were saying, you have to prove that you didn't do this, whereas in the UK, the stance that was taken was prove that they did do this. Something we've banged on about ever since these claims came out. If it was permissible under the rules of the testing regime, how can it be found to be guilty? Surely it's the testing regime and the organiser stroke governments who need to be taken to court for that. Anyway, most of it's been kicked into touch. There will be further court proceedings to work out the rest of the small bits, including potential appeals from both those who were pursuing the claim and those who were defending the claim. Right, moving on to new news, and the UK government has finally confirmed, following the consultation last year into this year, about a pay-per-mile EV tax, effectively, and plug-in hybrid tax. And it's going to come in from April 2028, and they have made some tweaks to their proposals, but it is electric vehicles are going to be charged 3p per mile. Plug-in hybrids are going to be charged 1.5p per mile, bearing in mind that both these also pay vehicle excise duty on top of this, which, okay. Particularly the plug-in hybrid, because they pay a lot more than an electric when it comes to vehicle excise duty, but whatever, that's obviously not changing. However, the government is adamant that EVs and PHEVs are benefiting heavily from the way the taxes are all set out anyway. But one of the biggest changes that's going to happen, because as we all laughed the day after the announcement came out, the Chancellor at the time had no idea that MOTs didn't happen to cars. But what they're doing for vehicles under 3 years old is that the owners will only have to send a photograph and an estimate of the next year's mileage, a photograph of their odometer reading, and their predicted mileage for the next 12 months to then be appropriately charged or not by HMRC. One of the fears was that there was going to have to be a tracking system installed, or they were going to have basically go through a mileage MOT test every year, but none of that's going to happen. there will be an ability for people to submit their information to the government via the connected car systems, where you can send your information directly to the government if you so wish, so that it is an up-to-date and very accurate mileage reading, and therefore your charges are spot on. I was going to say your mileage may vary in this, but that's too on the nose. But that is an opt-in. It is not, at this stage, it is not a mandatory thing. There's been various responses, a lot of it negative, particularly those who are trying to sell more electric vehicles and are in the associated industries around electric vehicles and just feel this is another stumbling block to getting people to transfer into electric cars, particularly when the rumours are very strong that the government is going to back away from their very silly mandated targets that bear very little in terms of reality to what's going on. But we'll see on that front. However, one of the things that the EVD will do, and there will be a second article linked in the show notes, from Autocar, written by Alex Grant, friend of the show. He runs into the details of those who are looking to be on the salary sacrifice schemes. Already these schemes are weighted massively in the favour of the wealthier staff members and those higher up the management structure, which is why you see so many of the BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, etc., the higher end electric vehicles on the roads. Is because they've all managed to do it via the salary sacrifice. But when Alex has run through the figures and spoken to experts in the industry, then those on lower wages get kicked even harder now, making it virtually impossible for someone low down on, say, £20,000 to get into a salary sacrifice scheme, which just reinforces inequality, doesn't it? Absolutely. And hopefully the government will take a look at this and make tweaks so it doesn't do that. But if you're interested in that, like I said, 2 links in the show notes, one talking about the EVED scheme and the other one about how it's going to impact certain elements of or certain sectors of society. Moving on now to Porsche, and they have appointed a new production chief. Albrecht Reimold has announced he's stepping down as of the end of August this year. And Christian Friedel will take over and be the executive board as member for production on the 1st of September 2026. He moves across from corporate quality, where he headed that up, and also he's had other management positions within the company, but he's a long-term Porsche person. And that's all in the time when there's obviously a lot of plans going into place with how they're going to restructure the company, how they're going to hone and tighten up their offerings to customers to make them more attractive. And Michael Leiters, the Porsche CEO, said that he will, in early October, finalize what the strategy is going to be. So it'll be interesting to see, because it feels like they're taking steps back when I'm not sure that's going to help them. Okay, sticking with sports cars and expensive sports cars. And we come into more problems for Aston Martin. And what's happening to them is that according to this article from Zetic.com, Aston Martin has more than 50% of their majority shareholders have signed a cooperation pact. So they've created effectively an ad hoc creditor group, and they're pulling that all together to help protect themselves through any debt restructuring that has to go on, because the fear has been that it'll be the shareholders that take the brunt of this rather than the creditors, and they're getting together to go, no, that's not going to happen. They've sent a legal letter where they've pushed back on this, and that also comes during the similar timings. Aston Martin has secured £550 million of debt financing, which they've managed to restructure some of their other debt. So they've paid off some of the U-Tree credit facility. They've paid off the revolving credit facility that they had. That took 170 million, 20 million to U-Tree. That they claim, or their chief financial officer, Doug Lafferty, said that the new £550 million debt financing significantly strengthens our liquidity, providing us with both additional resilience and further flexibility to execute our current and future product plans. First half results are due on July the 29th, so in just 2 days as of recording this, that'll be Wednesday. I don't expect those to be very good figures, to be honest, and I think they're just trying to get ahead of the bad news somewhat. Once again, Aston Martin seems to lurch from crisis to crisis, really, which is such a shame. Really is. I hope they can get it sorted, but doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, does it? Following the rumours of Ford speaking to Geely or to somebody from China about helping out the Valencia plant, we get the new joint venture from Ford and Geely, which will secure the future of the Valencia plant. And it means that the new entity will run that production facility, where they are going to have two Ford SUVs. The first one is going to be sort of a European-focused version of the Bronco, which seems like a no-brainer, and that's supposed to arrive in 2028. But they will also be developing with Geely a family crossover, another SUV, for the C segment, which, oh my word, sorry, this is just, I'm quoting here from Ford Europe boss Jim Baumbick, and he says there will be a rally-bred crossover in the C segment. Probably not in that tone. Rally-bred crossover in the C segment. Oh, for goodness sake. Anyway, skipping over that. Geely will be building two electric SUVs in the plant as well from 2028, I believe. And the idea, if everything goes swimmingly, is that they should maximize the potential of 500,000 vehicles being produced in that plant. Ford is going to own 66% and Geely will own 34% of this new entity. Helps Geely get around the EU tariff on vehicles built outside or built in China, getting an unfair advantage. We'll see how that one goes and how well that's going to go, but Ford are really making it very clear that the SUV they develop with Geely will not just be a rebadging. So obviously they are getting stung by some of the criticisms when you look at the Explorer and the Capri, and but that deal is still ongoing, and this isn't going to affect that. Yeah, let's see how well inviting Chinese manufacturers into European plants is going to work. I can see the very short-term reasons why companies are doing this. It does feel kind of allowing the fox into the hen coop, really. To round out the first part of the show, there was an article that we stumbled across that is titled CARWOW Launches ANPR Marketing Campaign to Engage with Drivers. That sounds a little bit innocuous, but when you read it, what is happening is CARWOW is using automatic number plate recognition, ANPR, to scan every car that goes into car parks, particularly during the holiday periods, so they can then send hyper-targeted ads encouraging the owners to sell their car via their platform, and as long as it meets certain criteria that they want, so it has to be some of the best selling, 2 owners or less than 40,000 miles, all these things worth over £15,000. But I think that's crossed over a line. That's crossed over a line into misuse of ANPR data, for starters. But more importantly, that's an invasion of, whilst you're out in public, that's still an invasion of privacy, that someone can target you to such an extent that they go, oh, let's have a look at your car. Great, we'll get up the detail from DVLA, and we'll now send you a targeted ad through the other horrific ways in which you're tracked around the internet. I just think that's an absolute no, and I think everyone should tell CARWOW that's a no. And they should make it very clear and should be very, very loud about protesting about this. Now, I went because I'm that kind of guy. to look up what the Information Commissioner's Office, useless though they are, is information about automatic number plate recognition and how it is fair use of the data. And they have a checklist you have to satisfy that you have run through to make sure that you are using this data correctly, fairly, and in a manner that doesn't actually inhibit people's privacy. Well, I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing out because that would be a list of the week entirely. However, there's a couple in here that I feel really need to be discussed and thought about. The very first thing on the checklist is, we have identified a genuine need to read vehicle registration marks, VRMs, from vehicles using public or private roads and car parks in a way that is fair, lawful, and transparent. What the genuine need is to make their bottom line bigger. That's not a genuine need to the public, though, is it? We keep the number of ANPR cameras we use to a minimum to ensure that we only use the appropriate amount in a specific area to address a particular need. Now, this is a UK-wide marketing plan, okay? And also, we ensure that the locations of our cameras are fully justifiable and are placed in such a way that they do not accidentally capture any vehicles that are not of interest. Well, they've broken it there because they're capturing everything. The only way to find the ones that they want is to capture everything. I'm so sick of this. I am so sick of companies abusing all this. But here we are. So, like I say, when you listen to this, be very loud on any social media platform. Tell your friends. Make sure that there is genuine outrage at this, because as far as I'm concerned, this is just absolutely disgusting. And this is not what ANPR is for. And it further entrenches how badly we have been let down by our government and the useful as a chocolate teapot ICO. Anyway, moving on from that, as I allow my blood pressure to sink slightly, gives me an opportunity to say that it is Guilt Minute. And that's the quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. The different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live, usually. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we completely understand that, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all that, and some of you do, thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is recommend us to your friends or colleagues. Just a quick note to say that, sorry that we missed last week, and sorry it's only me this week. However, we're not going to be able to do the roundup of recharging around Britain until a week Thursday is when we've got it planned for. So if you've got any questions that you would like us to consider answering during the live stream, where we're going to summarize what we did, bring you up to date, bring it all into one lump, one episode, and answer some of your questions hopefully as well, then please do get them into us in whatever way you can get hold of us, either, printing out, wrapping it around a brick, throwing it through a window, smoke signals, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, email, the contact page, any of those. Please do get them into us so that we can help answer what you want to know from us, because we've got an idea of what we want to answer from these things, but we're not sure exactly all the things that perhaps you would like to know. Do get those into us, please. Right, let us move on to new car news. And I wish the Looking Out podcast had got their episode about the Range Rover GT out, because I bet it's going to be a humdinger. Anyway, JLR have released images of the Range Rover GT, where there was a lot of talk about how this gets close to being a mix between a Grand Tourer and an SUV. Oh boy, they've made a coupe SUV is what they've done, and they've made a coupe SUV that they've removed every button that they can find pretty much from the inside of. I mean, they are leaning so heavily into minimalism on that interior. I think they've fallen through it. It's looking at the images we've had released, and this is there will be an Autocar article linked in the show notes, but do bear in mind these. If it doesn't have a wrap on it, sort of camoed wrap, then Autocar produced those themselves. So take those with a pinch of salt. But looking at the images that JLR have released, it's got the typical Range Rover bluff front and the rear, and they've shrunk the roof line, so you've got very tiny windows at the side, and then they've put a coupe style at the back. But apparently there's loads of room to get in and out of, even though it's a coupe. But whatever. I mean, I don't know who it's for. That's the problem here. I don't understand who it's for. Discussing it with Alan, it's a shame he's not here this week, because I thought he came up with a brilliant point when we were chatting about this sort of offline. And he said it's either a brilliant move because they sweep up all the customers that Porsche's lost because they've canned their coupe SUV, or are going to, or it's 5 years too late. So, I mean, they'll get visibility because they'll put it in the hands of tons of influencers and media people and all the rest of it. Great, but whatever. I mean, it's not for me. Increasingly, the JLR product range, there is nothing in there that is aimed at me, so I struggle to understand it. And when it comes to the interior, I think it's just ridiculous. I know we're only looking at images we've been supplied by JLR, but I don't see how you can have the tiny, if you look at the pictures in there, top of the dashboard, in front of the driver, behind the steering wheel, there's this very thin screen that's going to have your typical information. But I don't see how anyone's going to be able to see that properly. And bearing in mind, JLR sell an accessory for the Defender that blocks its own side mirror. I wonder if anybody actually tries any of their stuff when they're developing it. I really do, because there's some really daft decisions made. But whatever, let's see when we find out. We don't know what the prices are going to be. They said it's going to be really competitive, but what does that mean? Okay, let's wait till it comes out. Here, I wonder how long we're going to be teased on this, because JLR do like... I will give JLR credit. One of the things they are fantastic at is getting coverage without having anything solid to show off. So I will congratulate them on that. Anyway, moving on to something that's more real and more likely for... where I can see the use case of it, and it's the Dacia Striker. This is a jacked up estate. I'm sure we've talked about this before on New Car News when it was revealed as a concept or something. But it's a jacked up estate, so think along the lines of the Subaru Outback. And it's one of their... Yes, we did, because we talked about how long it was, I'm sure. But it's going to be priced from just under £25,000 when it comes to the UK. And that means that it's going to undercut things like the Octavia estate. The design is very much Dacia at the moment. They've got a really good, strong design language, which is simple. It's... I'm not going to say it's elegant. It's not. But it's not overly aggressive either. I think it's treading a fine line between, but you know that it's a Dacia. Got tons of space. It'll also have the ability, if you want, to have some off-road and mud sand driving modes to boost its capability, because that will be electrified by the 1.2 litre hybrid, which produces 150 horsepower, again, like in the Dacia Bigster. Great things. It looks good on the interior as well. Would love to get my hands on one when it comes out and give it a go and see what it's like. There's going to be 4 trim levels. We're starting at Essential, then Expression, Extreme, and then Journey is the top of the range. It's probably round about the Expression Extreme will be the sweet spots of the range, I am sure. But good to see Dacia. Now Skoda have decided they're moving into sort of premium area. It's good to see there's at least one brand that isn't Chinese that is thinking of those of us who cannot afford brand new vehicles over a certain price. And talking of affordable vehicles, Volkswagen have revealed the ID Cross, and this is aimed at the likes of the Renault 4 and the Ford Puma Gen E. It will have a variety of battery and motor options, which means that there will be mileage ranges, maximum mileage ranges ranging from 196 up to 271 miles. Prices are expected to start around £25,000 as well, although I would expect the 271 mile range to be north of 30 grand, probably 35 typically. Like the Polo, the interior, Volkswagen have realised their mistake and also heard about how NCAP are going to come down heavily on anyone who doesn't have suitable buttons and switches for certain aspects. But there are buttons and switches inside the vehicle, which is backed up because their lead designer said it was a mistake to get rid of them. And it looks like some of it's been thought through ergonomically as well, which is good. I am sure this will sell quite a lot of vehicles, particularly at that price point as well, or those price points. Although I do feel I will reiterate, if you are selling a vehicle over £20,000, it should have a mileage range of 200 miles. Real 200 miles as well. I do feel less than that is shortchanging those who cannot afford more expensive vehicles new. Once again, Autocar link in the show notes. Do check that out. We move on to points of interest, and as I said in the introduction, as many of us have FOMO from last weekend because we were not at the FAVOUR Festival of the Unexceptional, and it looked amazing. The weather looked amazing. The number of vehicles there looked amazing. And I have only selected 3 videos from YouTube. There are lots on there. Whilst I'm giving you these 3 links, and these are people we have linked to before, please do search for Festival of the Unexceptional 2026 and go show some love to smaller creators out there who have taken time out of their own weekend to go and film these things and put it out for us to look at. Do check them out. Do give them some love through some views and some likes and all the rest of it, because let's not forget, people don't have to do this. Nobody has to produce anything for us. Nobody has to do it, and we need to remember and thank them for it in a way that we can thank them. And one of the best ways is you watch it, you like it, and if you like it enough, you subscribe to the channel. So first of all, I am linking to iDrive a Classic. So Steph's version of this, that's 58 minutes. So that should be a couple of lunch times for you. Also, I have Furious Driving for his 1 hour, 14:50 video. Okay. And then finally, the one I'm linking to in the show notes is John Coupland on cars. And he has just a mere 1 hour and 3 minutes and 20 seconds of the cars coming into the festival that he captured. All 3, brilliant. Love seeing them. Love the fact I couldn't make it yet again. And it seems to be an annual event that it goes on and I can't be there. But do enjoy that. Do watch them through. And like I say, please do check out the smaller creators as well and give them some love. Okay, that means we have a list of the week, and it's from Classic and Sports Cars. It's just titled 23 Car Colours with Great Names, and they are 23 great named colours. Now, along here, so there's oh dear, right, okay. There's 24 slides, but 23 colours, and I am going to ask you to go in your packs, if you can follow along at home, to go to slide number 5, which is number 4, Go Mango. And this was a colour from Dodge, and it was originally on the 1970 Challenger. The same name, but not quite the same tone in colour, or exact colour, was the 2006 Charger and the 2016 Challenger Charger and Dart. But yeah, the orange Go Mango on that car, amazing, love it. There's some brilliant ones in here, some fabulously named colours. If you go to slide 8, very nearly beat out Go Mango, but there we go. Oh yes. Anyway, we round out with an and finally. There seems to be a recurring theme that the tech bros feel they need to redesign transportation, and only they know how to fix the problems with transportation. And invariably, they are either creating something that we can fix now for a fraction of the cost if we just had the will and the drive, no pun intended, or the focus to do it. I'm talking about autonomous vehicles. All their suggestions on what the benefits we can fix now. But this time, I'm going to link to a Miles in Transit video on YouTube where he discusses the Uber shuttle or bus. What they've done is they've designed a fixed route from Logan Airport that goes to specific stops, and you cannot deviate from that route or those stops. And you go, it's a bus. You've made a bus, for crying out loud. And they're just reinventing what we already have. But I don't know, perhaps they didn't feel that customers were being exploited quite enough. And that's the problem with public transport, is that people aren't being exploited enough. Anyway, do click on it. Watch it. It's 14 odd minutes. At the end of it, just laugh heartily at how dumb this world has become in certain areas, and just try and cheer yourself up that way. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. Oh dear. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. And there are just a couple of parish notes, just as a reminder. Alan should be back next week, should be back on our normal day of the week as well. Things should have calmed down in the world outside of the podcast enough for us to be able to do that. The other thing is that the live stream where we summarise and round up recharging around Britain should be taking place, but we'll definitely confirm in the days between now and then. Should be taking place a week Thursday in the evening, probably be 8 o'clock kickoff again, as usual. Do get your questions into us, please. So we'd like to make sure that when we're covering it, we answer any queries or are able to answer any questions you have about what happened and our thoughts on things. Yeah, so please do that. And that only leaves me to say that don't forget, between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. If you would like to get in touch with Alan, the best way to do that is via Blue Sky, where he is at AJP Bradley. That's Bradley. If you want to get in touch with me, if you search for Cracked Windscreen on Blue Sky or under my name on LinkedIn. We'll be back very soon. But until then, he's not been Alan Bradley. I've been Andrew Clues, and safe motoring.